have some conversation with that guy, Max.
Yeah, it's Red Wings time.
Yeah, it's Red Wings time.
It's Red Wings time.
Shout out to Red Wings. Shout out to CY. What up, Max? Thanks for taking the time to join us, man.
Hey, my pleasure, fellas. Sorry, I know the disappointment in the listeners when they're about to get some good James Edwards content and I show up. So
no, dude, it's all Red Wings today. Stevie Y not only shocked the world because our guy Nick called it out yesterday, but he's cooking right now, man.
Yeah, Tarasenko was a need. I mean, they lost a lot of offense. David Perron, they just traded away Robbie Fabry to clear some cap space. Daniel Sprong obviously looks like he most likely won't be back. He's a free agent right now, so they needed to get some goals. That was a big place. They took a step last year, and they were at risk of losing some ground there. So he's a big time scorer, and they keep him. I think it's an important one.
Yeah, and so now I'm looking at it how I said I think the second line is going to shake out. It's going to be Tarasenko, Comfort, Kane. Is that how you see it? What do you think that top six is going to look like for the Red Wings next year?
It's how I would do it. I thought that their best line last year was DeBrincat with Larkin and Raymond. I thought that line worked awesome, especially at the end of the year. I would not be in a hurry to break that up. Only issue is Kane and Tarasenko. Neither of those guys plays a whole ton of defense.
Yeah.
So that is going to be an issue if they're going to put them together. But you got the great playmaker in Kane. You got the great finisher in Tarasenko. Tarasenko is certainly not going to defer to Kane, which I think is always a little bit of something you have to work through when you're a player of Patrick Kane's stature, is getting your line mates to not just keep giving you the puck back when you want them to shoot it. So he's certainly not going to be starstruck or anything like that. That's how I would do it, but they'll have to work out the defensive side of the puck there so that JT's not having to dig out all those pucks in the D zone.
Yeah, for sure. And now you're looking at what this team has left, what they need left. In eyes are on that blue line. We still think you need another top pairing guy, whether it's the top two pairings. There's been talks of Trouba. Ekblad's name has been floated out there. You bring in this stockpile of goaltenders now that you got to think some of them are going to be moved, or one of them is at least going to be moved. What could you see Stevie doing on top of the Tarasenko signing?
Yeah, it's a good question. The cap space that they have now is a little bit deceptive, right? So they have just over $20 million, which sounds like a ton. But there's a chance they could need up to like 17 million of that for Moritz Seider and Lucas Raymond, which does not leave them probably as much flexibility as it looks like. Now, maybe they bridge one or two of those guys, free up a little more space. But right now, I don't see a ton of ways that they can really keep adding here. Like, you mentioned the blue line. I agree with you. You'd like a little more support for Seider, but I don't really know where you're finding it. I know you mentioned a couple of names there. I don't know that they could actually even fit either of those guys in their cap without it really affecting what they could do with Seider and Raymond. Now, if you moved like a Husso contract, that does change the game a little bit and make even more for you. But we'll see what they do there. Right now, I don't think it's quite as crowded as everybody is looking at it and seeing. I really think it's three goalies in Detroit: Talbot, Husso, and Lyon. I would expect Jack Campbell to be in Grand Rapids with Sebastian Cossa. This new guy in this trade, I think, you can kind of, he's to complete the trade, he's ECHL depth. He's not really, I don't think, in the mix for Detroit.
Well, speaking of Grand Rapids and the defense, which one of those young guys do you expect to possibly move up to address that defense?
I think a lot of it's going to be on Simon Edvinsson, and you saw him at the end of last season. I thought he was really good. I would expect that he's in a similar role to start next season. Albert Johansson's another guy who's not waiver exempt anymore, so he should be on the roster. William Lageson's the guy that they signed from Edmonton. I'm curious to see, is that an is that a Detroit signing, or is that I don't even know where Lagesson was last season. He was with Edmonton at one point. That's how I came to know him. But they signed him. He's on a league minimum deal. It would not shock me if that's Grand Rapids in the end for him. But obviously they'll want Johansson to have to, be better than him to push him out and all that. But would not shock me if that's Grand Rapids in kind of an organizational depth situation. So we'll see. But, I do think a lot of it's going to have to come from internal improvement. You talked about the defense. Edvinsson probably has to be a difference maker in that way for them to get better defensively. They just haven't added that much else that makes them better defensively. Certainly in goal they have. I think Tyler Mott is a good defensive forward on the fourth line. But other than that, I don't see a ton of real that's going to really change the game for them matchup-wise defensively. So I think you're leaning a lot on Mott, a lot on the goaltending, and a lot on somebody like Edvinsson.
Yeah, and looking at the one defenseman that you did lose from last year that everybody's worried about was obviously Ghost moving on. Who do you see stepping into that power play one quarterback role? Is it Mo Seider just pushing him in there? I know people were talking about Petrie possibly being that guy. Who do you see as that quarterback for the power play next year?
Well, it could be Seider. He's done it before. I think he has the ability to do it, but I think that the natural replacement for Gostisbehere is the guy they signed 2 days ago, Eric Gustafsson.
Yeah.
He's done that before in the past. He actually has a 60-point season on his resume back in Chicago with
Damn.
Alex DeBrincat and Patrick Kane. So there is a chance that that's kind of his role coming in. Keeps the handedness the same to what it was last year. But him and Seider, those are the two that would really jump out to me as your two power play quarterbacks. We'll see which order it's in.
Hey Max, Nick in the sound booth here. I'm super fired up about this signing with Tarasenko, and to me it proves that Steve expects this team to contend for the playoffs. I was wondering where your expectations are moving forward, going with the veterans instead of all of the young guys, and would you be disappointed if this team doesn't make the playoffs next season?
Well, honestly, I wrote this a couple days ago. It was not very popular. I did not think that they got better. This helps. I still think that they look pretty similar to me to the team last year, and I would expect right in that same ballpark, 88 to 92 points. I think historically that doesn't usually get you into the playoffs. It very nearly did last year. They were at 91, lost out on a tiebreaker. But usually I think you need more like 95 to 97 to get in. So to me, I don't quite see them as a playoff team, but I see them as a pretty similar team to last year, and I think they should be in it. I think there should be expectations for this team, but I do think that it's very possible that they take a little bit of a step back, and that's always the trick. We talked about some of these young guys. If a Carter Mazer comes in or Marco Casper in training camp and is really good and looks like they deserve a spot, I think that the Red Wings will honor that. At least that's what they've kind of said. But it's how ready are they to really make a difference, and that is one way that I could see them outperforming. Whether it's one of those guys or even a guy who's already here, Moritz Seider, Simon Edvinsson, Lucas Raymond, taking that next step. We saw Raymond start to do it down the stretch. If he comes in next season, he's an 80, 85 point player. Absolutely, that raises the ceiling for this team. But just in terms of the roster, I do think it's fairly similar to the one that they left off with. Maybe a little more offensive upside from a guy like Tarasenko. He certainly is a great goal scorer, but I do think they lose a guy like David Perron. They lose Daniel Sprong. He's making up for that lost offense. So I think it looks pretty similar to how they ended off.
Yeah, that's how I saw it. Was you spoke about the internal adjustments and internal improvements, because you have Tarasenko is great, but he kind of just fills in for Perron. Gustafsson kind of just fills in for Ghost. And then you look at having a Patrick Kane for a whole season, having an Edvinsson for a whole season rather than just, the last couple months there. Do you think we can expect Patrick Kane at his age, off of the injury, to be a point per game guy for an entire season?
It's a great question. I think if you're hoping for that, what you're leaning on is last season, last summer, I should say, at this time, he was recovering injury. Now he has a summer where he's training to improve, and that is a different situation. Obviously, the durability is going to be a question with him probably till the end of his career, just because you get up to that age, you're coming off some of the medical stuff he's had. It's always going to be in the back of your mind. But he has had a summer to really fully train here. And that is probably, if you're a Red Wings fan, your biggest source of optimism on him is that, hey, maybe he's even better because he's had this time to really work on his body and all that stuff. So that's probably the best hope when it comes to Kane.
Max, man, I appreciate you taking the time to join us. I know I hit you up last minute. You probably have to write stuff like crazy. Stevie might still land something before the fireworks tomorrow. What do you got planned for the holidays? And what do you got planned on The Athletic today that we should check out?
Well, I just put a story up doing a little bit of quick analysis on the Tarasenko signing. But as for the holiday, it's development camp week down at LCA, guys. So I'm down at the arena tomorrow and Friday still before I can kick my feet up. Yeah,
and looking at the development camp, you got to let me know how the Makarish guy's looking down there. I just love to see ASP. And I can't wait for him. He's probably the guy I'm most excited for that we have coming through the ranks.
Yeah, so far a lot of it's just been drills. So, the big 3-on-3 scrimmages is Friday, and that's where you really see him. But I do think he's moving well. You can obviously tell how smart he is, how skilled he is. He moves great. So definitely one of the ones to keep an eye on when they do that scrimmage on Friday.
Do you have a favorite coming up of the prospects?
I think Nate Danielson has impressed me every time I've seen him. And I feel like every time I see him, he's better than the last time I saw him. The way he skates, he's a big body. He's got skill. He just really asserts himself. He was their 9th overall pick in 2023. So I don't think I'm, picking a surprise name here, but I really like him as a prospect. I think he's going to be a really good player.
Max, man, again, I appreciate you taking time to join us right before the holiday, right before all this stuff going on. Make sure you guys give him a follow at M_Bultman, and check him out on The Athletic.
Thanks, Max.
My pleasure. Worth it just to learn Easy's secret real first name.
Yeah.
It's Poindexter, if you guys are wondering.
Yeah.
We got to go to break.
Appreciate you, Max.
See you, brother.
See you guys.
Max is the man, dude. Those athletic guys, man, they're as good as it gets, man.
Great athletes.
Great athletes. I'm so jealous that he gets to watch this. Danielson looks so good, obviously.
That's music to my ears in the booth right there.
Yeah.
Because we're so hype about Axel, to hear that from Max Bultman, who covers them every single day, to say he's that hype about Danielson, you're talking about a top 2 line center in my eyes. If he's that excited for him, that's great to hear out of Max Bultman.
Wanted to, if we could have kept him for a little bit longer, I was going to ask him, like, how much of a long shot would that be? How insane would Danielson have to be for them to be like, all right,
he's coming.
You're ready. Yeah.
What's he play?
Center.
Wow.
Yeah.
Long ways now.
He was like showing up in preseason last year.
Last year, they were like, he looks like the best guy they got at preseason.
Wow.
Like it's definitely like a lot of the thought of it last year was like, he doesn't have anything to lose, so he's just going out there and fucking trying to look like the coolest. But if he's continuing to play like that, we might see Danielson here pretty soon. Obviously,
I'm more curious what he thought my name was before.
No, I don't know what people think your name is.
What do I look like?
Wilbur.
I have no clue what your name is. I'm not gonna lie.